As this continues the journey that we have all embarked upon, it's useful to do a couple of things, one of which is to look back and see where immediately we have journeyed from, and the other is to then look forward. And today is an occasion upon which I intend to do both. Before I go through a slide presentation, I sort of want to lay out for you what has happened over the course of the last 12 to 16 or 18 months. We have essentially looked at this college as a group of academy-based professionals, both faculty, our staff, our administration, and in so doing, we've actually begun to have an immediate conversation about things that we know we needed to shore up. The things that we tried very hard over the course of many years to find money for, that we now needed to find money for because we were sort of at the end of the stick. We now have something to talk about that really represents what we really fundamentally want to do with the college in a 10-year span. It isn't as though we have the Holy Grail and we've invented or said everything about it that we want. There may be things along the way that we say, wow, we didn't think of this, we should now add it. Or there are things that students may bring to us that we want to now add to the envelope of growth of the college. But each and every single time we sort of have a strategic planning process, and we've had now two of them which over the course of this last year resulted in there being, I think, a great deal more clarity around sort of what really is the strategic vision of the college. But each time we've done that, we find ourselves greeted with the reality that then there is life, right? You have strategic planning and then there's life. And life dictates that we essentially bend and ebb and flow with the reality that is given to us. And one of those realities has been a budget that unfortunately was in many years or for many years prior, it was a budget that essentially was deficited. And Medgar was trying to do what it was trying to do, but it was limping through it from a financial standpoint. What we've attempted to do, and I'll just say this as one of the sort of predicates of the presentation, but what we attempted to do was to level out that conversation and let's try to really put the college on a firm financial footing. And so I want to start my presentation by just simply telling you what that footing is. For members of the faculty who've heard this before, my apologies for hearing it again. But perhaps for new people who do not know about it, you should actually understand that the backbone, the financial backbone of the college, and everything that I'm about to tell you that we've either done or we're going to do, is going to be tied to how well we are able to manage our money. And so I would tell you that the balance of this budget, or the ability to balance this budget, is a function of, as you well know, enrollment. And the enrollment of the college continues to grow. We are 5% from last year, or nearly 5% growth over the year prior. Our goal always was to improve by 5% each year for the next 5 years. And what that does is essentially it allows us to have a recommitted, if you will, a rethinking of the way by which this deficit will be solved. The deficit has been roughly in the vicinity of $2.8 to $3 million a year, and we needed to basically work our way out of that without having to subjugate ourselves to oversight from anybody, whether it's CUNY or anybody else. And so what we've essentially done is we've argued that the growth of this enrollment will in fact result in more students being able to pay their tuition, and that tuition will allow us to essentially live on our own, or live up to the budget number of our own college. If our budget number, if you will, is 7,000 students, and we'll live at that rate. If it's 7,500, we'll live at that rate. But what we're projecting is that the budget number is going to grow. And then that means the enrollment is going to grow. And so as that has happened, the commitment that we've made with CUNY, the arrangement that we've made with CUNY, is that we will grow this college in its enrollment, and as the enrollment grows, we will pay for ourselves to get out of deficit. But in the meantime, in the course of the next 2 to 3 years, we need the benefit of additional financial support from CUNY to just help us build the college that we know we can and should be. And to that end, we have had an infusion of dollars over the course of this last year that allowed us to do exactly what I just said, and it has also allowed us to begin the process of doing some of the additional things that we know will benefit not just the college, but it'll benefit the students writ large. One of those things is we hired 12 new faculty members over the course of the summer. Our intent is to continue to focus and give great meaning to the scholarship and the research and the capabilities of our faculty. We want to begin to highlight that and you'll see it in the presentation today. But nonetheless, it is by virtue of our getting our finances in order that we're able to add to the budget 12 new faculty members over the course of this last year. And so begins the reason that all of us come to understand a little bit about things that we're in the process of doing. Last year, we ended last year with a commencement ceremony where we had well over 7,000 people. It was again being done in the Barclays Center, second year in a row. Unfortunately, it does not appear as though we'll be able to make it a third year. And we are currently in the process of looking at another venue for being able to do that. Eric Adams, our borough president, was the keynote speaker. And we had, in addition to Eric, we had an honorary degree recipient who is none other than the owner of the Barclays Center, Bruce Ratner. Bruce has continued to be a friend of this college on a whole lot of levels. And well-deserved this honorary degree. Most notably, as a part of the college and this sort of movement of the college toward really beginning to recognize people who have given so much over so long a period of time, a second honorary degree recipient posthumously was accepted by Muriel Evers, and in the name of her late great husband, Dr. Medgar Evers Wiley, and Murley came, having been on this campus, I don't think in the last 10 or 15 years, but came specifically for that event. One of the things that you will hear us talking more about over the course of the year will be the way by which the college engages in the community. And by way of doing that, we also serve the sort of dual end of both the academic side, if you will, as well as the community side of our mission. This is Randy Weston, a jazz pianist of great renown, who sort of signifies what we were trying to say about both the community and the academic side. Randy Weston was a jazz pianist who came to Jazzy Jazz, spent an evening of greatness with us, really, that night. I was there. It was a fabulous night. But he also, because he's one of the very few jazz musicians of his era, there are very few black jazz musicians left from that era, to be perfectly honest with you. He represents a legend. He represents a legacy of genius jazz musicians from Brooklyn who unfortunately are leaving us. As God would have it, they will not be with us very long, probably. But he came to us through Dr. Crawford and said that he wanted to take what is left of his time and begin to invest it in being a member of an academic community who could benefit from his legacy, who could benefit from his work. And we are in the process of working with Randy Weston now to be able to build him into the BFA, Fine and Performing Arts program, that has newly been approved by CUNY and by the College Council. Randy may be here as early as second semester. He is someone for jazz folks or people who love this particular genre of music. He is someone who you will actually know of his music from many, many, many years ago. But most importantly, he has other colleagues and friends who, frankly, are still alive and who want to participate in this very same thing. What better place to put down your steps, your footprint, as a swan song, so to speak, than to be on the faculty or to be in some way, shape, or form honored by being in connection with the faculty here at Medgar Evers College. And we are in the process of attempting to bring him in for that very purpose. There are some other institutional highlights that I wanted to mention. I talked about the new faculty. You know, this college is known partly by its name, but it's also going to be known more and more by its faculty, by the publications that they have, by the research grants that they're able to bring to the floor, by the kind of experiences that students get by being in their classes. We need desperately to encourage, support, and build upon the success of other, if you will, more senior faculty who have done this particular body of work for some period of time, whose publications and whose expertise and whose work in this area has lent all kinds of support, both to Brooklyn, but specifically to the larger frame of issues connected with New York and New York State. And what you'll see here are publications that are part and parcel of the liberal arts and education department, performances that are that have come out, articles that have come out. A little later in this, I'll actually list the names of faculty members without going through all of them, but list the names of faculty members who've really done a yeoman's job at being able to bring additional research and grant awards to the campus. But I just wanted to be able to highlight some of this because these highlights really do point to the direction of the college and its emphasis on faculty and faculty scholarship. That is where this is all going to be headed. Why? Because fundamentally, people come to college because they hear there are exciting, provocative, useful, connected, intellectually stimulating pieces of work with which they get to do with really exemplary professors. It's really that simple. It is the industry of relationships. Now, I'm going to keep talking about this notion of relationships. I'll introduce it now, but be aware that this is about fundamentally saying to this college that we are going to have to be about the business of using our talent, our expertise. Every time someone comes on CNN and asks for an expert in something in which we have a discipline, my question is, why aren't we talking to faculty here? Why don't we grab someone from here? Even within CUNY itself, why aren't we actually using our own people to be experts in not only court assignments, but in news assignments as well? So more and more of that is what I hope to be able to bring to you in the years ahead. But for now, be aware that these are the kinds of institutional highlights that I wanted to bring to your attention today. I didn't want to go past this because it bodes, you know, a constant look. First of all, to all the people who were connected with this piece of the slide, I'm not talking about producing the slide, but the work in being able to generate the reality of this slide, I personally want to say thank you. And the reason for that is we have tried over the course of the year. The theory here is if you build it, they'll come. That if you really have exciting degree programs that will connect people to the world of work, they in fact will come to this college to find their way from middle schools, high schools, wherever it may be, other colleges transitioning, but coming to this college for the purpose of being able to go to their next stage of their life. That's what this college intended to do back in the 70s when it was created. And so my hope would be that you pay attention to not just what's up here, but the list that is forthcoming of places that we will now begin to venture in the way of building new and different curricular programs and degree programs. These are, if you will, just a harbinger of what's to come. I want to commend everybody in the business school for the Bachelor's of Science in the financial economics, Dr. Egbe. As I've said to you a number of times, thank you very much for your work in that area. The Bachelor of Fine Arts in Media and Performing Arts, the BFA, Dr. Crawford and his team, I think, did an absolutely wonderful job in getting it from start to finish. And I do understand there are a few finishing touches yet to be done at CUNY, but, Provost, you're going to make sure that those finishing touches are finished. The Department of Chemistry and Environmental Science, CSS, and the newly created Department of Physics and Computer Science. I can't tell you enough. Dr. Hope, you've been a champion for this for whatever time before me and probably long after me, but I really do appreciate the work that you and others have done in that area. Another highlight for us was that 137 MEC students were inducted into the National Society of Leadership and Success. We have NABA, the National Association of Black Accountants, and others, all of whom have been on this campus providing opportunity for mentorship and scholarship for our students. Our students have won first place in the 8th annual Deloitte Touche NBA case study competition. And then you have students who, will probably at some point in time outshine all of us in one form or another by virtue of their placement in not just the CUNY periodicals, but as pointed out on many occasions in the New York Times, we have students who are worthy and capable and smart and talented enough to be exactly where they are. We should get a picture of this in our head and understand that this is the norm. This is not an exception. I'm not putting this up here because this is something that's unusual. I'm putting it up because this is who we are. And I'm going to talk again in a moment about why this picture in your mind should never, ever, ever leave. Again, I'm not going to go through and read all of this, but for you to be aware that there are grant dollars, awards that are being made, SPCD, every other department, every school has their fair share of research grants and awards that they're in the process of getting. I'm told that number continues to rise year over year in terms of the actual number of grants and awards that have come to the college. Our goal, ultimately, is to maintain that growth in the number of grants and the dollar value of those grants. Why? Because it really does signal the value, the intellectual value proposition that we're making with outside entities, and also, therefore, being able to give those experiences to our students. And again, not to belabor the point, but to signal what for us is going to be a constant and a norm. The faculty that have done, I think, just an extraordinary job in being able to accomplish the prior slide are listed here. And I just want to give you a half a second just to see who it is. There may be many more people who are in the process now of doing more and more and more work toward this end. And again, their names will eventually be on this sheet as well. But for now, be aware these are some of the folks that we owe a great deal of gratitude to because their money fuels a lot of the research and scholarship that some of our students will get an opportunity to participate in. I want to say a little bit about the work with the Carnegie Foundation and the city legislature and the borough president. So a year ago, I actually stood in this very room and I was saying to the College Council that we needed to, in addition to raise money through CUNY to figure out the deficit, that we also needed to think in terms of taking the best ideas we can take to the marketplace and begin to get more and more outside philanthropic dollars, in addition to grant awards and so forth, but to get philanthropic dollars to get invested in Medgar. Now, that shouldn't be all that hard in a time when people are talking about STEM and they're talking about having more and more people coming directly out of college and going into STEM careers, and trying to really emphasize on how we do that in poor communities and so forth. That shouldn't be that hard, but the hard part has been that, frankly, Medgar had an opportunity to do this some years ago, and we basically, from my word, punted a little bit. All right? We just kind of didn't get our act together well enough to be able to get in front of these philanthropists with proposals and generate the kind of money that we can generate. The Carnegie Foundation read and approved a grant as a result of the work that we started with the pipeline to build out the opportunities in the college around the Caribbean Research Center, around the entrepreneurship work that we wanted to do, and ultimately around the ability to get more and more students placed in jobs. They read this proposal and said, listen, we understand that you've had some bad years, and we're not willing to, sort of keep you hostage to those bad years, but we do want to begin the process of establishing a philanthropic relationship with Medgar, whereby we will give you the first endowment, the first installment, which is $1.2 million, to do these three things and do them well. And so this year, the Center for Caribbean Research, the Entrepreneurship Center, and the Center for Transitional Pathways, each of which are represented by various people in this audience today. Those programs received roughly 600, 400, 300 respectively for their ability to get these programs up and running. And ultimately, they are the door opener. They're the key for us to being able to get additional money from Carnegie in the future. Carnegie said, we know that this is a 5-year journey for you. We understand that this is going to be more and more and more necessary for us to have a relationship with you. But in order to be able to get you that, let's see how you do with these three first. And here's $1.2 million to do that over the course of 2 years. I'm pleased because on the one hand, it obviously bodes well for the college and, again, the students and the experiences that they'll be able to have. But I personally want to say thank you to each of the people who essentially were responsible for some of the ideas that went into this proposal, because they essentially built out what was going to be a CUNY, or rather a Medgar program that either got funded or got put in a trash can. And they built that out, and they built it out really through their own intellectual hard work and sweat equity. And I really do want to express my appreciation to Dean Roll. Dean Roll for one, I'm sorry, and I thought I saw him a moment ago. And Dean Irish, because it's their ideas, their notions, their disciplines, their expertise that really went into that proposal, and that was what got funded by Carnegie. So again, my hat's off to both of you. Thank you very much. And the Career Center and Pathways, let me just say a quick word about that. So one of the things that we have been trying to have actually America has been trying to have this conversation about, is how do we get more young people connected to the world of work? And especially when the prerequisites for that are both social in nature as well as sort of analytical, particularly around STEM. And here stands Medgar being able to create internships and job possibilities for students by virtue of a whole host of programs that we are now embarking upon. And that is what this is really intended to build out. It's intended to build out the infrastructure the strategies, the connective tissue between our students graduating and our students being placed in a job. Graduate in May, start end of May. You want to talk about economic development in Central Brooklyn? Give young people a job. It's really not that complicated a feat, but you do need help. And in this instance, we had the help of the Carnegie Foundation, and this will actually be seated under Dr. Castro and her team in career development. I want to say a little bit about the state legislature, the city legislature, and specifically the borough president and his office. And so last year, we had an opportunity to, I had asked actually for us to approach the legislature with one ask, meaning one list. Let's not all run amok. Let's not everybody go and try to do this multiple out from me kind of strategy where I get mine, and then as long as they've already given me money, I'm not particularly concerned with whether or not they give the college any additional money. And so we did, and I appreciate everybody's forbearance in that. But in the course of time, we had a number of people, both in the Assembly, a number of people in the Senate, a number of people in the city legislature and the city council, and we obviously had a borough president who got the same message about what was needed in this college. And this isn't a different message. I mean, you've all heard it and seen it. It's about building out our infrastructure, building new programs, the degree programs, the kind of infrastructure that we need, the kind of supports that we should have had for years and years and years and didn't actually get at the time. And I will tell you that there have been a number of people who have been extraordinary in the giving and the building of this relationship with this college that has now been the backbone of what has happened for us in terms of getting additional money into the college. And one of those stalwarts is here with us today. Could I ask Assemblyman Mosley if you would please stand and be recognized? Thank you. When you see capital improvements going on around the campus, when you see smart classrooms being developed, and when you see new and different programs coming into existence, in part it is because we have had the benefit of not just Assemblyman Mosley, but Lori Cumbo, the borough president, all of whom in their own way and in their own body of politics has gone a long way to support the vision and the direction of the college. So Assemblyman Mosley, thank you very much, and thank you very much for being here. You've heard us talk a little bit about internships and the like. I'll be brief in this one, but you're going to hear us talking more about Startup New York and the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And what this essentially is this is an opportunity. The state, the governor actually has put together a program which Medgar qualified for, and I believe it's the College of Staten Island as well. And essentially it's this, again, bridge between college graduation and the world of work and internships. I tell you, if you want to add value to people's lives as young people, it is not so much just about the fact that they got a degree. It's who they know and what networks they're in, and whether they understand how to dress for this, talk to the people in this, get accustomed and understanding who and what and where and how to play this game. And our children don't oftentimes get those rules of engagement. So it becomes very important for us to think in terms of, listen, we've got to build the apparatus for them to be aware of the opportunities and then to be prepared for the opportunities. And nothing could help us better than to actually have 5 companies that are now been approved to work in the startup zone in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. If you haven't been to the Brooklyn Navy Yard in a while, you should do yourself a favor and go see it, because it is extravagant. It's going to be a state-of-the-art environment for not just places of business that are doing high-tech work and sort of pointing to the future, but it's also a way of being able to see where our students will be doing the kind of applied learning and applied work that they're learning from your classes. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on PMP and the Middle States report, but suffice to say that they are in alignment. It's why they're on the same page. What we are trying to do is essentially say, whether it be for Middle States or for PMP, the colleges we know the areas that we're going to have to improve. And we need to, as this report talks about, increase the number of degree programs, the graduation rate, the job placement rate, online instruction. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, and increase the impact of the pipeline for our upcoming, if you will, students coming out of high school, and then increase the number of students in study abroad. Again, these are all notions that I'm going to want to talk about shortly. And then, of course, there wouldn't be a good presentation without some understanding of then in what context are we trying to continue some of the good things that you saw here a moment ago. Well, we intend to really honor the fact that any place going through transformation understands that there are challenges, that this is not, an easy ride down a hill. We are all climbing a hill. And I need you to know that when we talk about retention, we talk about graduation, we talk about degree completion rates, we are talking about going up a hill. Let's be honest. We've seen all the numbers. I don't need to go through them again, but you've seen the numbers. And this is a challenge for us. It's not just that we need more students in the college. We need to keep those students in the college. We need for them to remain here for the full duration of their academic career, whether it's a 2-year program, but I think hopefully increasingly a 4-year program. Let's be honest. 2 years gets you 2 years short of what you need to be even reasonably prepared for a global economy. We're kidding each other if we think that Medgar can just simply do the 2-year shuffle and you can leave. You need 4 full years of college. Now, I understand that comes with a whole list of other challenges that students face, from finances to having to work and on and on and on. I get all of that. But the college has got to be flexible and nimble in thinking through how does it talk to young people about and motivate them to actually finish school. And so part of my address to you, if nothing else you hear, is that at a meta level, at a very different level from just simply offering degree programs, but at a very different level from just academic programs, we need to actually have a conversation about 4 years here. We need to really expect young people to finish 4 years. And while we're in the expectation business, we also need to expect when they come into your class or when they come into this auditorium, if they're a young man or a young woman and they're wearing a baseball cap, ask them to take that doggone baseball cap off. Now, I'm not death on baseball caps. I got my own assortment of baseball caps. It's just this is about knowing the time and place for everything. And you really need, it really is as much a statement about our willingness to accept that standard as it is their understanding or misunderstanding of what the standard is. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have a baseball cap. I'm just simply saying there are times and places in the rules of life where you just can't walk in any old way you want to. Medgar has got to be a place that says, much like Morehouse or Spelman, there's a time and a place for you to be a Medgar student. And I want you to expect that in your classrooms. And I want our students to expect that they are in a culture of an organization that wants them to know these rules of the road explicitly. Let's not kid ourselves. When you walk into the job interview, you are already starting from a different place than many other students who will be coming for that competitive job. You need to know the rules of the road, and there's no rule that I know, not even if you want to go work for a hip-hop company, that you can just walk in any old way you want. So we need to get these things out on the table. I think this internship work and so forth, and the retention and graduation and completion rates, all of that is really important, but important as it is not more important in my mind than the lessons learned at this college. And how they come to know them is by the significant, caring, loving adults in their lives, expecting them to behave in ways that would be appropriate for young men and young women about to step off. Make sure I don't step off. But about to step off into a world that is far more complex than anything you and I ever faced when we were coming through. There are a number of things that I want to just very quickly touch upon that have to do with where we are headed. None of this will be brand new. None of this should be very new to anybody here. But they are things that we have been talking about in one form or another. As it says, the MEC Honors Program is expected to launch this coming spring. It's time for us, when I showed you those pictures of those students that I said, this is not an unusual, it shouldn't be a surprise, this is our new norm. It should be an expected norm that we have students who are here and who are honors students, intellectually adept, smart, capable students, capable of filling out an honors program. This is who we want to be. This is who we want to be. I want to attract honors students here. I want students who have high GPAs and who are thinking about going to a SUNY college. I want them here. I want students from our high schools, our local high schools, who have options a go-go in terms of where they would be suitable for placement in a post-secondary institution. I want them to think about here. So this honors program is an important element coming in your neighborhood soon. The School of Education is, for me, and you might guess this would be true, this is my discipline, this is an area that I think Medgar stands to being a standout again, because what we're proposing here is not a school that ultimately just trains teachers in a sort of a rotation mill, but rather literally understands the transformation of schooling and the role that teachers and principals and parents play in that transformation, and trains all of those people at a much higher standard than we've ever done before. That's a dynamic that most schools of education have not yet done. I want to commend Dr. Paul. If you would just take a quick bow. Dr. Paul and the other members of her team who put together what I think of as one of the most stellar proposals, which will be going to the CUNY higher-ups actually it comes to college council and then goes to, assuming it's approved there, then it'll go to CUNY. But in any case, in my mind, it's a foregone conclusion that this is a home run. Allied health, forensic accounting, I spoke of before, mortuary science with Nassau Community College, career pathways initiative I just mentioned, and the more really includes something that I'm just going to very briefly touch upon, which is a faith center. Now, we don't have a chapel here. Most of us travel by faith, and if we don't, we should. The idea here is that in communities where there are people who have lived lives of quiet desperation, we need, if nothing else, to join each other in understanding the power of faith and faithfulness to the ideals of our humanity that is born and incubated in a place like Medgar. It is from the heart that we learn how the rest of the body functions. And our minds are only going to be as expansive as our ability to give to other people. Medgar Evers gave to this college, gave his name. His wife came and gave her time. There are countless people who have been here since its inception or just about from its inception who have given of their lives. Every time we see students, we ask them to give back. We are always talking about this notion of giving. I can't think of a better and more appropriate way of being able to understand the notion of giving than to create a center, a faith center, in which we are always talking about the community and the individual coming together around this notion of giving through faith. This isn't about religion. This is not about proselytizing and trying to get somebody converted. This is about saying our students come to us oftentimes with no money, no idea, and ultimately no sense of how to get from here to there. And all they have at that very moment that they're trying to sign up for college, all they have is faith. Faith that somebody will talk to them, faith that somebody will be decent to them, faith that they can essentially equip themselves with the skills and the ideas necessary to get through this place. They want to have what you and I have. And the distance between where they are now in their lives and where they think they want to be, the distance is in part covered by faith. It's a walk of faith. So we need to honor that by simply saying, I want to have a faith center here, a way of being able for the community as well as the college to come together and not let the ills of gentrification divide us, not let people turn asunder the good things that faculty and staff are all doing, not allow people's sense of despair and frustration with the system, sometimes us, result in them having no way of being able to solve their problems but through anger or violence. We are not predisposed to that. We're predisposed and hardwired for empathy. And we need to actually operate in that way. This Faith Center is a way of being able to do just that. I'm going to close in a second here, but I wanted to talk for a moment about some other work that I think is going to be right around the corner for us. When we did the pipeline with an idea of saying, we believe that there are many more students in this garden of Central Brooklyn, that there are many more students who could come to us if, in fact, we open our doors and went after them. I mean, when I say go after them, I mean go after them whether they're in the fifth grade. See, if you're a fifth grader, you're going to be in this college or you're going to be in a jail. You think about this now. You read the stats like I do. You see the news. You're either going to be somewhere that's going in this direction or you're going to be going in that direction. And the degree of difference is a function of who and what institutions have you come to them, be on their campus, talk to them, give them a T-shirt, expose them to your classes, give them some sense of what the world that has almost always eluded them and their families for generations, but give them a sense of what this looks like. And so it's not going to be very far in the future that we will be doing that same projection, that same work of the pipeline, not necessarily just in the 80 schools that we have here in Brooklyn, but I want to do it in the Caribbean. Because many of those students are sitting in those classrooms waiting to catch a flight here anyway. Why aren't we talking to them now? So our first visit, if you will, was to Grenada, where we laid this idea out, and the University of St. George University said, we want this idea, and we want it for all of the Caribbean islands. Can we take this idea and start to do what you're doing in New York City? I said, yes, you may have this. There's no intellectual copyright here. You can have it. They said, well, we've got problems in the Caribbean. I mean, some of those problems are that we don't listen to each other as well as we should, and that maybe what we should do is have you and the provost come back and talk with them, because you're coming from a place in the United States where we would respect and hear this a little differently. I have to tell you, that felt good. And so now we have been invited to, having left Grenada with some success, we've now been invited to do the exact same presentation in Trinidad and Tobago. And in the Trinidad and Tobago circumstance, the United States Embassy got wind of this, and they are now sponsoring the trip. We're not paying our own way. They're sponsoring the trip. And they're essentially saying, we want you, in addition to talking to our colleges and universities here, we want you to come and present at our college fair. So we want Medgar to be represented in the college fair. By the way, Rudy, you will have a line longer than you may have time for. Because in this country, the government pays for their college education. And so lots of young people, much as you have them in your classrooms now, many young people sitting just offshore, literally, want to come here and will now be given the opportunity to enter Medgar by virtue of our establishing a multi-college and university consortium with these nations that you see represented up here. Now, I will tell you, I will tell you, every time I mention this, somebody says, oh, you forgot, right? And then they list me their country, right? When do you plan to go here, right? This is, you know, good ideas oftentimes die under the weight of support. So I don't intend to have many more than this list, at least not in this round. Why? Because we want to get started and started well. We want to actually get this thing undergoing, under sail fairly well. But the idea here is, having met now with the heads of state of many of these places, they are ecstatic about the fact that they are going to be in league with Medgar/CUNY for the purpose of their students being able to come here. So those of you who, as faculty members, are starting to ask the question, well, you know, what would this mean to me? What it means is, A, more students coming into college, B, more sections of what you offer, C, students coming in, I presume, with a much higher, if you will, acumen for the work, and therefore you need to be on your A game. You need to be on your A game, because these young people that I saw in many of the instances when I was there, you know, they're not coming out of some place in one of our local high schools that, you know, didn't have a science lab. These are young people coming with a serious bent on being academically prepared and challenged, and that means good things for us. If I could define success in closing, I would say to you, you know, without hesitation, what we do in the way of retention, what we do with enrollment, graduation, internships and jobs, all of that makes more sense than not. The approval of the School of Education by CUNY, that's going to be a hallmark for us. This is a big deal, because so many schools of education, frankly, are not well thought of, and we want to be one that is. The other element of success for the year is, for me, the mentoring and support of new faculty. I have had the opportunity to see and hear, and in some cases, meet individual faculty members who were brand new to the college. And then I had an opportunity to read a report. I don't have it with me right now, but it was a report that was done by a Harvard group dealing with the issues of faculty retention and faculty support. And I read through this. In fact, the provost gave it to me, gave me his copy of it. I read through it last night and this morning, and I looked at it and thought, there's something really, really powerful in this when it starts to say that many, many, many faculty, I mean, there are three colors, basically. There's red, which I don't need to tell you what it means, but there's red, there's a sort of a light green, and then there's a gray. And the gray area is okay. Green is really positive, and the red is you know what. We had virtually on probably 5 indicators, almost everybody, and there were only, I think, 58 people who filled out this survey, but out of that 58, almost exclusively, every single area was in red. Now, that's not a scientific way of describing the outcomes here, but I will tell you, it's an embarrassing reaction to what is happening in the college. And I don't want to have it stand. So I'm simply saying to you, how we talk with people, how we deal with new faculty, how we bring people into our fold matters. It matters. So we need to put a full court press on that. The last and certainly not least is this issue of then how would you define success globally? I think that it's the study abroad work. We need to have far more students. Last year, sadly, because of the issues going on in Egypt, we were not able to allow for the Egypt trip to go forward. A lot of the students were very disappointed by that. But I canceled that trip. Dr. Crawford did not. So anybody who's angry should be angry with me about it, but it was in the interest of the college and the safety of the students that I canceled it after having counsel with CUNY. But we need to actually build some money behind the study abroad work, right? There's no sense in going to other countries and dealing with them from an academic standpoint and giving our faculty opportunities to do exchange programs and so forth in the consortium that we're talking about here a moment ago. There's no sense in doing that, and at the same time, our students are sadly lacking in the ability to go to these countries and spend 6 months to a year in academic study. So we want to actually expand that. I would consider that a success if we can raise money to be able to expand the study abroad effort. The Consortium on Caribbean Universities, I will consider that a success as we get those MOUs signed and in the door from many of the countries that you saw here. And then the last and certainly not least part, and I'll finish truly on this, is this business of being more empathetic. So I've gotten interested in a bit of work that comes at the the intersection of economics and productivity conversations, which you know I love to have, and what is the new science saying about what creates greater degrees of productivity in companies. And I started going back last night, and I was reading some interesting journals about Google and a number of other companies that have almost become the darling of Wall Street in one form or another, Starbucks and the like. And you know, when I was reading about that, I was thinking about Medgar, and I was talking to some folks about how I wanted to finish off the presentation today. So here's my hope. My hope is that we will have an opportunity over the course of this year to build our intelligence, to build a new intelligence in Medgar Evers College around what I think of and what the literature now refers to as empathic leadership. The ability to have not just empathy, not just a sense of your own individual survival, but to build a collective intelligence around what it means to be treated well, and how does that then affect your individual work and your collective responsibility to the college. Now, I'm going to say this again because this is an important issue for me, largely because I have had too many conversations, some with faculty and were borne out by this report. Some I've had with students And those conversations have been painful to hear. And I've had them similarly with alum who have had a similar experience on this campus in which they essentially left the college altogether or left it emotionally because we failed to cross the bridge of empathy. Because we could not suspend our own emotional place or misplacement. And we directed our frustration, our core assumptions, we directed that at an individual who was there to pay a bill, to ask a question, to come to class, to do the right thing if told what to do. To a faculty member who just simply wanted to join up, to a staff member who's brand new and doesn't know exactly how Medgar functions, to the person whose paycheck got somehow screwed completely up. Yeah, you can clap for that. We need to understand that on last week, the Pope came through this nation and he walked with such humility that the news reporters couldn't find enough adjectives to describe the phenomenon of the Pope visiting this country. And I looked at that and thought, the touchstone that he has unearthed is a touchstone that essentially is needing to be brought forward in the conversations in universities and colleges and offices all over, but it's a touchstone of empathy for human beings. Medgar does not measure up to that touchstone. Now, you now know me well enough to know I am not going to ever mince my words. We fail at how we treat other people. We don't get an A in that course. We don't meet standard because we are quick to judge, we're quick to disgrace, we're quick to disassemble another human being, and oftentimes we do it with such joy. So I'm saying to you, whether you are a member of the faculty, a staff member, a member of this administration, a student, a member of the alumni organization, understand that you and I are inextricably linked to the family, to the community of this college. And your life and your needs and your feelings and your possession of yourself is as important to me as it should be to you. I need you to understand there is no sense in us having conversations about globalization if we don't even know how to be decent to the person in the office next to us. So, I'll close in simply saying to you, I deeply appreciate that you will hear this. I need you to internalize it. I need you to understand this state of the city, state of the college. I'm never running for nothing, ever, ever. This state of the college address would be remiss if I didn't say to you that the fabric of our humanity is the best curriculum in Central Brooklyn. How well we treat each other and how well we treat the outside world, says miles about the character of this institution. And I thank you. I invite you to think deeply about this and act always on it. Thank you very, very much.